before. So let's, I'm going to call this at 2:34, the meeting for the Law Enforcement Oversight Committee to discuss the use of force policies that are currently in place for the Virginia Beach Police Department. So has everyone had a chance, and this is, has everybody had a chance to read them, look them over, study them?
Committee chair has time. Do you want to do a roll call first?
Oh, sure.
And also the minutes approval too, and then we'll just go on down the line.
Yep.
I was just thinking this was a working meeting. This is not a meeting meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just sent the agenda out to everyone. So let's get started with a roll call. Just announce that you are present when I call your name. Commissioner Amberman.
Present.
Thank you. Committee Chair Heseltine.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gencott.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley.
Present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Cubine.
Here.
Thank you. All right. So with that, we can go ahead and do, hold on a second. There she is. Okay. Go ahead and start the approval for the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone want to put forth a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting on December 16th? I see Commissioner Amberman's real hand is up. Commissioner Amberman?
Yeah, so moved. I move that we approve.
Okay. So does anyone want to second the motion to approve the minutes from the December 16th meeting? Anyone? Raise your virtual hand or your real hand. Okay. Vice Chair Gencott?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a first and a second motion to approve the minutes from the December 16th meeting. Anyone opposed or any discussion on the motion? Raise your virtual hand. Okay, in that case, gonna go ahead and do a roll call vote for approval of the minutes from the December 16th meeting. Commissioner Amberman?
Yes.
Thank you. Committee Chair Heseltine?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes, approve.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gencott?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Approve.
Thank you. And Commissioner Cubine?
Approved.
Thank you. And that is the minutes from the December 16th meeting were approved by a vote of 6-0. All right. With that, I'll turn the mic over to you, Committee Chair Heseltine.
Thank you. I just got an email from Sylvia, and I saw that she CC'd you and Ginger as well. So she's going to be a few minutes late.
Yep, I saw that too.
And again, I apologize that I didn't send out an agenda, or do we? I mean, I'm still new at this. Do we not do working meetings, or they all have to be like this?
I believe they're all like this because it's either our regular meetings or committee meetings.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Learn something new every day. Okay. So again, the whole purpose of this meeting was to, as we talked about the last time, to review the use of force policy with the Virginia Beach Police Department. I only had a couple people who asked me questions about the definitions and then did their own work. Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. That was good. So with that said, I guess we should, let's just go through each one. First of all, what were the overall views of these use of force policies?
Anyone have a comment they would like to make regarding their thoughts on the policy itself? Raise your virtual hand. Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Gencott. Vice Chair Gencott, your mic is open.
Thank you. So I read through the policies several times over different periods of time. When we first got them way back in, I want to say May, June, and then I read them. So I read them 3 times. And the first time I was kind of getting into the jargon and all. But by the third time reading through and understanding some of the acronyms, I feel like they are fairly clear, and I think that new chief, if there's a place to tighten up, the new chief is going to be on that. I didn't see anything that seemed to me to be unfair. There were a few spots where there was the judgment is left up to the officer. And, you know, that is what it is, because they're out there on the front line having to make decisions. They're prepared to make those decisions, and nobody's perfect. So I feel comfortable. I would feel comfortable saying that, yeah, I would agree with the policies as they are right now. But again, I'm open to other people with different eyes on it, because we all see it. We all read it. We all see it a little differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gincott. I saw Commissioner Cubine, I saw you had your real hand up. Your mic is open. Did you have a comment?
Well, I sent in some observations a while ago, and I think I sent them in again. I just kind of edited them. And I thought overall everything was sound as far as the policies were concerned. And I did have a little bit, I mentioned it last meeting, that I had some difficulty following some of the ways that things were reported, such as on page 5, use of force reporting. It starts off with directions for reporting whenever force is used in the performance of an official police duty. There's a very, very short paragraph, but then most of that page went on to talk about the negligent discharges. Like, so it wasn't really under just use of force reporting. It started focusing on negligent discharges, like accidental discharges, before it really went on to describe what the guidelines were for use of force reporting. And that was just a matter of, no, I thought it was not real clear, but it's all there, so I don't think it's any big problem.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cubine. Does anyone else have a comment about the policy itself? Any thoughts? Raise your virtual hand if you have anything to say. Vice Chair Gincott, if you don't have anything more to say, don't forget to lower your virtual hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any more virtual hands, Committee Chair.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I was really interested to see what you all said, but the only thing, as I read it, is if this is for the public to read, is it a good idea or to make the recommendation to possibly add footnotes at the end, a glossary of sorts, if we're trying to, because nobody would know what CALIA is, and is actually a great reporting mechanism. I reviewed the use of force policies in Cincinnati, since that's where our new chief is from. And theirs are much longer than ours. I like the way they were structured for the common person to read, because there were lots of definitions. Anybody could read it and understand it. And after you read theirs and then you go back and you read ours again, I could see where there would be some improvements that could be made if these are for anyone to look online and to be able to read them and understand how this is going to apply to them.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments on that? You have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
Thank you very much, Carla. I really like that idea of the comparison that you made. I actually wanted to suggest that I had the same thought that you did, because if it is just for the department and they are reading the policies and they are understanding, that is one thing. But what is the ask for us? And I think the ask for us is maybe to make recommendations on things that we see. And some of the policies I saw that, just like Ginger mentioned, that the recommendations are, in some of the areas are very specific, what the officer needs to do, and there is a process. But in some others, basically there is no detail. So it's left up to the officer. And I think that, in my opinion, probably they're asking our review because they want to make sure that if the public asks for these documents, that we help them basically make sure that not only that they are understood, but that the public sees that actually that there is a method for a police officer. For instance, one of the things that I saw that it seemed pretty light in the description is when an officer is observing another officer. It just says report it up to the command, something like that. I don't have it right now. But, I feel that to have more detail on something that we know specifically is an issue that is being discussed in the community. It is actually one of the issues that is causing some friction between some communities and the police department. And I think that is where our help comes in. So maybe if you would consider, at some point to basically have Dominique share the document so that people can see in the different areas to see if there are areas in which we can make those recommendations that can be placed at the bottom, like you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ambrose. Does anyone else have any thoughts or comments on the matter? Okay, I don't see any other virtual hands. Committee Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, if that's the case, that we all agree that do we all approve of these use of force with the recommendations that we have of just making them more user friendly?
I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Kivine. Commissioner Kivine, your mic is open.
Yes, I think, I really would like to know specifically what did they want us to look for, or what are we looking for? There's been a lot of concern about use of force overall in the nation. Are we just looking for how it's presented and whether we understand what they say and whether directions are clear? Or was there something else we were supposed to be finding that relates to use of force?
Our task was to look through the policy for any kind of human rights violations, or what we could perceive as a human rights violation. Mm-hmm. We are not here to grade the what we think of it, or offer any recommendations regarding the structure. And like I said, for me, the only thing was if a layman's supposed to read this, it's in the best interest. I think it's in the best interest to provide definitions in a glossary. That would be the only thing that I could see, that I saw through it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Kivine, did you have more to say? I saw your virtual hand go back up.
You said that we're supposed to look for human rights issues, whether there are any difficulties with human rights issues. So we didn't really see any of those, right? And we haven't talked about that. We only talked about how it's structured and the definitions and so forth.
Right.
But as far as I see, we didn't really talk about that there were any human rights violations, right?
Yeah, what I'm hearing from the group is that nobody is having any objections to this document as far as that there are human rights issues.
Right. So that's my opinion also.
Okay.
I did wonder if you thought it was worthwhile to pull out that section on page 5 that if it is supposed to be understood by the public, which I don't know, whether there's any reason to make any note of that I made note of in my reviews.
Committee chair, do you want me to share the policy on my screen? Because I do have it up.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
It's use of force reporting.
Okay, find it on my screen. Hold on one second.
It's
Here we go. Just find it. All right, can everyone see it?
I can't read it. Can you make it bigger?
Yeah.
well, this, and it's on printed page 6,
Okay.
what she's talking about.
Can everyone see that now? Okay. So page 6. Okay. Is this the page right here?
Yes.
Okay. And what section am I looking for?
Tommy, are you talking about the UOF reporting exemption, or which piece of it?
Dang, just a second. Let's see. Sorry. It's use of force reporting. CALEA is at the top, and it says page 5 of 8. And it says use of force reporting, and it starts off talking about that this is how you report the use of force. Yeah, and then it's in the second paragraph. It goes into negligent discharges, and it continues with negligent discharges on down until it goes back to what back to actually the directions for force.
Oh, okay.
Further down. So most of that page is about negligent, and although at the top it just says use of force reporting.
And so could you elaborate a little? I'm sorry. Tell me, could you elaborate a little more on how you would see that as a human rights violation?
Oh, I don't. When we were doing this, I wasn't thinking, I was, of course, thinking in terms of human rights violations, but no, I don't. I know when I mentioned that in the other meeting, when the officers were there, they said, well, we would want things to be clear if the public's going to be reading it. But, it's okay. It's got the use of force guidelines, but it takes up most of the page with negligent discharges, something that's out of the ordinary rather than ordinary use of force. So anyone who reads it all the way through and really wants to get down to the brass tacks will find it in the end, I think. So it possibly is not something this committee wants to consider, but I had reported that, so I said if there was any feedback, on that, I had reported it twice. So I don't hear any feedback, so apparently it's not a concern.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. I see a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Gencott. Vice Chair Gencott, your mic is open.
Thank you. So, Tommy, you bring up a good point that we glossed over, and that is reviewing it with human rights violations in mind. And of course, that has to be our lens. And so to share a little bit further, as I was reviewing it, in my mind was the George Floyd murder. And I kept that question in my mind. Does this policy prevent something like that happening here? If you know where I was going. And so I kept that as a little focal point for myself in going through. And I guess I'd like to pose that question to have all of us respond with that in mind, because that's what has spurred all of this, how far use of force should go. And so if you would entertain, I'd like to hear everyone's response on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Junca. Commissioner Amberman, I know you had your hand up regarding another issue.
Actually, I am going to wait. I want to hear Teresa Stanley. I guess there are others that actually raised their hands prior to me.
Oh, they have put their hands down, but I'll certainly check and see if they still have something to say. One second. Commissioner Stanley, did you still have something to say, add to the discussion?
I think my questions are slowly getting answered. I too was concerned about, throughout the policy, they say they'll generally respond. There's even, in this paragraph, and I think that some things are left, as Ginger said, a little bit unknown. So I feel like if the policy is for people, it's a violation of people's human rights not to know the exact policy, and so because it affects their liberties and can affect their life. So that is where I had a bit of a problem, and I think you all are already hashing it out, so I don't want to belabor it, but yeah, that's my question.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Amberman, did you want to make your comment or your statement now? Or did you?
I mean, basically, I just wanted to make sure that we go back to the department and see if they want to have us further the opinion, because obviously the document has been reviewed by the city attorneys. So in my opinion, nothing that comes from our city will have like flagging human rights violations. So I feel that is an easy and fast answer. There are no violations, but the thing that I'm asking is, do they want to have an opinion on how some things can be better phrased in order to have the public, understand better what they're saying? And then another thing that I was looking at the policy itself, but if we're not opining on the policy itself, then I have nothing else to say. Basically, we are fine. But if, in fact, they're asking us to give an opinion on how can this be better for the public and for, making sure that the relationship between department and community is improved, I feel that, there are some policies in which the police officer, especially on the use of force at the last parts of the not on the discharge of the firearm. Do you mind lowering a little bit more and
is it down further or?
Yeah, down farther. Yeah.
Okay.
The UFO reporting exemption, for instance, and let me see if I can. Maybe it's me. Open.
I can go down further.
No, right there. No. Where you had it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reporting. Yeah. The reason why the officer involved in the shooting is not required to have a written report to be completed by the involved officer. I mean, questions like that I feel that, it would be good to discuss it. But if this is not our task, then we're done, in my opinion.
No, and again, I think our task was to look for human rights violations. I think it is also, like I said, in the lens of if this is for laymen, if this is easier, what we can do for like I said, my recommendation was more definitions, more a glossary of some type, so that people can understand what they're reading. If you see something, but if you see something that like if you think that the officer involved shooting
No.
is a question, you know, that is a violation of human rights, that is something we should point out.
No.
Okay.
That is the question. You are focused only on the violation of human rights.
Yep.
And the scope then is very narrow. And that is my question to you. When we asked to look and review this, to only look for human rights violations, and if that is so, I don't see any. So then that means the task is done. And we
Right.
should report back.
Yeah,
But-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But if they're asking us for an opinion as to how something can be improved to be better understood by the community, that there is a clear process. For instance, when an officer sees another officer, like in the case, with George Floyd, when an officer sees another officer doing something, in my opinion, that should be reported, how, what are the protections for that officer to make sure he's able to report without feeling any fear of, retribution or danger to his job, etc. Those are the kinds of things that I was thinking of. But other than that, I think then our job is done. Is being reviewed.
Okay.
If that is the narrow charge we have.
That is my understanding. This was not for us to look at their policies and to make recommendations on the policies that they have in place, but
Mhm.
to look at if anything glaringly is a human rights violation.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Ammerman. I just want to take a moment to recognize that Commissioner Taylor has joined the meeting. Commissioner Taylor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Ron.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All righty.
Did you have anything to say regarding the policy? Speaking from, looking at it from a human rights violation perspective?
Well, I didn't see anything that would indicate it's a human rights violation or anything. I think someone made the comment is about if another officer would witness something, how does he go about reporting it out without reprisal?
Right. Yes, Commissioner Ammerman did say that. But speaking from the initial task that we were assigned to, which was looking at the policy for any human rights violations, is there anything in that in
the document, after reviewing it, I didn't see anything would be a potential human rights violation.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
At this
Thank
time
you.
now. At this time.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. I just want to now I want to just take a moment to recognize that Chair Nair Strickland has joined the meeting. Hello.
Sorry I'm late. Thank you.
That's all right. That's all right. So we were just speaking on looking at the policy, the use of force policy with the Virginia Beach Police Department, if there were anything that you saw that stood out as a human rights violation.
No.
I just want to interject here. I think whenever we go back to them with the recommendations we have or the blessing or the okay that we have, I would want to see this again once. Some of the things that were in this do not reflect what the General Assembly passed in the special session. So I think this has to be updated anyway. Which I think is a good time that they could add something like, say, definitions or a glossary. But there were things in here that, like shooting at a moving car, those kinds of things that are no longer allowed, that are still reflected in the use of force policies.
Okay. All right. I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Cubine. Commissioner Cubine, did you have something to add?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to have my hand up.
That's okay. Okay.
Yep.
Now I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
I believe too, Paula, that there was some language in the legislation around if an officer is witnessing an abuse of policy, that it is mandated that they act. So that may take care of that issue that seems to be of concern to some of us.
I agree. Like I said, this does not reflect what was passed, and I had printed everything from the GA Special Assembly that had gotten through. So I think once we, I've kind of checkmarked mine of what I was looking for, and I think once we report back to them, I'd like to see it again once they make the changes to reflect those what was passed.
And could we request that as a body?
Absolutely.
As a body, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I agree with that. That's why at this time I don't see anything that is a human rights violation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley, and thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Did anyone else have anything to add about what their feelings or what they thought on the policy? All right, I do not see any other virtual hands up. Oh, I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to thank Carla for getting back to the chief and the sheriff, but to also convey, please, that that we basically would like to not only see that, but the policy regarding how a police officer will feel secure in reporting misconduct by any other officer. That we're interested in seeing details when they are, ready to put them in print. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Okay, Committee Chair Hesselstein, I don't see any other virtual hands up at this time.
Okay, great.
Excuse me, I got one other thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let me give you some insight of what you're dealing with. I'm a former law enforcement person, and we was affecting arrests. I was working in the Richmond area, and I was working with another officer, and the individual that this person was handcuffing said, "Why do you have her handcuffing me? You should be handcuffing her because I'm buying crack out of her house." So this is totally different than abuse of force, but I'm trying to give you a parallel here. So what if we have something in our policy, and I'm quite sure that the police department have something in their policy which direct the officer what he does with information like that. And my policy said that I must put it in my report and forward it to internal affairs. And that's what I done. I told the officer, hey, I'm gonna put it in the report, but he's just talking off his rocker. Well, I caught heat behind it. Believe me, I caught some flack.
Commissioner Taylor, you still there?
Fellow peers. Say again.
We're losing you a little bit, Commissioner Taylor. You're going in and out.
Okay, my fellow peers questioned me and really came down on me for filing that report and doing my job. But in the end, when she resigned in lieu of termination because her boyfriend was selling crack out of her house. So, and that's why you have some officers reluctant to report stuff out because of stuff like that.
Okay.
I just want to share that with you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. I see no other virtual hands up at this time. Committee Chair has time.
Okay, thank you. So with that, do we want to move forward with setting up another meeting with the police department At which time, well, or do we want to set up another meeting with the police department until, or just report back to them the recommendations of to update it and get it back to us that way, and the recommendation of possible definitions or a glossary before we, or do we want to have a formal meeting with them?
I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Thompson, your mic is open.
Good afternoon. I think I've just been listening, reading, and contemplating, and the policies that, as I can see them, Carla, seem to be appropriate to me as far as those, and also I think adding a glossary of terms to assist the public in understanding the policies. I think those are good recommendations. I think my primary concern is piggybacking off of what Ron Taylor has said. I mean, policies and procedures can be written, by the hundreds of pages, but it is what the officers and the staff, they still have free will, and they still can make their decisions on how they're going to adhere to those policies. And I think that's really my main concern. I would like to know, what kind of training, what kind of preparation are officers given before going out into the public and interacting with the community. That's more my concern. I think the policies are clear. I just would be more interested in knowing, what kind of preparation are the officers given? What kind of training are they given? And like I said, the policies, we can write them until, from now until, whenever, but how will the officers carry out? That's the primary concern. And I know that it's important to have everything written down, and it's important to have policies in place. But ultimately, it comes down to the officers' one-on-one interaction with the community. So, I mean, I've had my firsthand experience with it. Certainly wasn't involving any kind of use of force, anything like that. But, I mean, I guess we could determine that by however. But that's my concern about how individual officers will interact with the community.
Commissioner Strickland, I think it's fair with the Law Enforcement Oversight Committee to ask for a report out of the training and preparation. Would you agree?
Yes.
That we can ask for that presentation?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Me?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. No, this is an open discussion to the group, but I was talking to Sylvia more than anything because since she's the chair. That asking the police department for a report on training and preparations would be a fair game kind of presentation to have for the Leon.
That's absolutely appropriate, and I would pass that request on to Billy Zelms, and at his convenience, ask him to, and maybe he can tailor it and frame it better than just what they're taught to go out, specifically. So, Francis, you particularly want to know when they go out, the training that they receive, so when they know how and when to use the use of force policy. Is that correct?
Commissioner Thompson, your mic is open.
Thank you. Even to the extent of having a commissioner or two to sit in on the training, or to not approve the training, but to hear what it is they're doing with this policy and how they're training their officers. I would like to see. I would like to know, what are they telling them? Because a lot of what they're telling them may not be used in the community, and it may not be experienced by the members of the community all in the same way. And so I would like to know, what are they telling the officers that they, can transfer over into the community. So if it were possible, I would like to know more about the training and how the policies are not just in a book, but the policies and procedures are made clear, and officers have to take some kind of competency to know what these policies are and to exercise them when they interact with the community. If you can.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Jancott. Vice Chair Jancott, your mic is now open.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, the topic of police training. Okay, so my memory isn't that great, but I think it was just a couple of months ago that Zelms gave us a detailed report on the training, and because some of it is coming back as, like, Francis, you're talking about certain topics, and some of it's coming back. It's not the same as sitting there and listening, which is a whole different story. But I'm wondering if we can, if Dominic, if you can track back and see what that, if that training, if that presentation was on the training, and do we have a recording of it that we can access to take a look at? And that would be a starting point, because that would be just the general things of, and then we can hone in more on something more about this day of training and what they have to go through. Is it consistent with what's going on the street and all? I don't know if that's helpful, but I think that we did receive a thing on their training. Sylvia?
Chair Neil Strickland, your mic is open.
Hi, yeah, following up on that again, remember I forgot what last couple of meetings that I asked the police officers, but I'm still pushing for that to have a virtual citizens academy, which could also help us. And also if it's a citizens academy, it's open up to citizens. And I think for some of the people who have not gone through it and want to know what the training is like, it would be an excellent opportunity. So I don't know if we need to ask as a commission to maybe push them in that direction. I think it was it Shelley that said they were doing all their virtual training, and that was, did she say it was on the list of things to do, or should we, I think we should ask for it specifically?
I know I remember her saying that. I guess it was something that was put on the back burner because of COVID, but they were considering, thinking about trying to make it virtual, but I think that was a process. So that's what I remember her saying during the meeting in regards to that program.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry. I agree with, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
No, I want to make a recommendation, and I have a question to ask. One of our jobs is to help our police department and our community and the city council reduce human rights violations. Am I correct? To eliminate or reduce it. And one of the biggest ways to reduce it or to help eliminate it is we have, I think if, I'm just making a recommendation. One of the things is that our officers, not everyone on the police department have body cameras. If we can first get all our officers and police department staff with no body camera, it will reduce your human rights violation, and abuse of force. And also, you got what Francis was talking about, writing the policy, but you'll find out who are adhering to the policy. Because let's take, for example, if someone got some information and they got that camera rolling, and if it's not in that report, then why wasn't it put in the report? Because once you review that camera, if a citizen say, hey, this officer is doing this right here, if it's not in the report, the written report, and documented, why didn't it get there? Then you start to looking into who's doing what. Something is not right. And so one of the biggest support that we can get to, that way it helps build the relationship between this community and trust and relationship and transparency between the community and the police department. Because once they roll those cameras, and all of them got them, if 5 people come on scene, you got 5 cameras rolling from different angles, different perspectives. And if somebody say something, do something, and it's all being recorded, then we know that everything is on the up and up. It's not like the citizen said, it's not like the officer. And if it's a human rights violation, it's all documented on camera. That's the way we can reduce it, or either possibly try to eliminate human rights violations, and making sure we hold our officers accountable. But we have to push for those cameras, and that's one of the biggest things, is getting those cameras. And that, I think police chief really want to get everybody with those cameras, because he said that's going to reduce a lot of friction in our community.
Ron, I have a question. Currently, we don't have body cams for all of the officers. Do we know if that's budgeted? If they? Oh, so Sylvia. Okay, I'm sorry. Sylvia may know that. That's because that's my understanding. I agree. Body cams for all officers, no matter your rank, no matter your seniority. Right. If you're out, you. Right. I mean, to me, it falls under the same thing as whenever we were talking about age discrimination, and that all officers have to be able to do all things at all times. So to me, it's the same thing personally, that if you're out there, you have to have one on. So but I had heard that we didn't have enough, and I didn't know if it's budgeted or what needs to happen next on that.
Now, what it is that he's going to ask the city manager to put them in the budget to outfit everyone, but they're going to start cutting and say, no, we could phase it in. But I don't know, Sylvia, you can check with Rod. Could we send a letter to the city council making that recommendation to help reduce human rights violation or eliminate them, and also help build a healthy relationship between our law enforcement and community by outfitting all our officers with body cameras? Because from my understanding from talking with him, he's going to try to put it in the budget to go ahead and finish it out. So he needs some support in getting this done for our community and for his staff.
Hello, I have an answer to that.
Okay.
I spoke with the chief yesterday, and he mentioned that there was another item that is in the budget. He's asking for everyone to full budget to outfit everyone with cameras and other things. And when I asked, did he need supporting letters for the other request, he made it pretty clear that he was confident that what he's asking for in the budget he's going to get, and that may be because he has a relationship prior to this one with the city manager. So he said if he gets to that point when budget starts being reviewed for the things that he might need support, he would let us know in plenty of time. So we don't have to worry about support letters until he asks. And I think that's probably because of their former relationship.
Okay, great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair Nick Strickland. I saw a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, did you still have something to say?
Actually, what I was going to say, it was addressed by Sylvia right now. And, if I just want to add something, when we are advocate for this, is the fact that this is beneficial for our department as well. Everybody in the community has a phone. And as you know, everybody is recording anyway. So the smart thing to do is to also have the officer's perspective. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Okay, I don't see any other virtual hand up by Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Thompson, your mic is open.
Yeah, I would definitely advocate for the body cams for officers, because when you're in crisis and you're pulled over as an officer, you may not have the presence of mind to pull out your phone camera, and all you have to go on is your word against his word. So, I mean, you know, I know personally, you just don't have the presence of mind to pull out your phone and start recording. So if the body cam is there, you know, and every officer, it doesn't have to be turned on. It's just automatically on in every interaction that they have with the community. I think it can't do anything but increase the possibility that everyone's human rights are honored. Whenever they're stopped, whenever they have any kind of interaction with the police. And there are interactions that don't even, I've been told that, you know, police officers stop and play basketball with the kids, and they stop and, you know, they have community interactions with the kids. All of that needs to be documented, you know, because too often it's just the bad stuff that we, you know, want to hear about. You know, when it comes down to what we're dealing with right now, the policies and procedures, like I said, they're on paper, solid. They say everything they're supposed to say. You know, I think every base is covered. I didn't see anything that would allude to anybody's, you know, human rights being violated. You know, but it comes down to the one-on-one interaction with each police officer and community member, and that they interact with the community in an equitable way. You treat me the way you would treat her, or you would treat, or according to my needs. If I'm disabled, how will you treat me? If I'm Black, how will you treat me? If I'm a Muslim, how will you treat me? That it comes down to that, and that is my primary concern as I sit on this committee, is that we make sure that the officers understand the policies and adhere to them. So the body cams, certainly, in my mouth, if there's anything we can do or say to the city council to encourage that budget expense for the police officers, I would definitely be in favor of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
Yes, and then once that happens, of course, a review of the policy to make sure that the officer turns it on, and it is obligatory. But anyway, just going back. So in my opinion, then the meeting, it has basically concluded in regards to the observation and review of the policies, and we have agreed that there is a response. Basically, that we don't see any violations, and that we just need to continue the conversation in regards to, you know, having communication. Changes in the policy and so forth when they come about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amberman.
Yes, the mandate I have, what I've written down from all of you is that the use of force policy, as we see it, doesn't contain any human rights violations. However, some recommendations would be to include definitions or a glossary. But however, we would like to see it once it has been updated to reflect the new laws put in place by the General Assembly special session. Is that an agreement?
Okay, anyone have any opposition to that? Okay, I see a virtual hand by Chair Nair Strickland. Did you have something to say?
I think so. I'm trying to keep track. I'm sorry, a little scattered today. Francis mentioned something about the stops and the training. We were supposed to get because we had so many new commissioners, we were supposed to get another presentation by the CIT officers, and also, you know, one time we had a presentation, I can't remember who gave it to us, but it was with the police department, about how they handle, they determine at the time whether someone is mentally unstable or is deaf. I think I asked a question about deaf. How do they know that? Anyway, there was the great presentations. Did we ever get that CIT presentation? We did. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I can resend it. I did send it with them. I think, when did we have that meeting? In November, I believe, because it was like the last meeting that Chief Sakara was present for, and I sent it out with the minutes. But I can definitely send it out again because he did supply me with a
that's right.
a PDF of the presentation. Yes.
That would be great. Yeah. And the captain that had given it to us before, there was when I asked about the deaf and that kind of, he said there's a lot of information. And that was a while ago too. I don't know if all of you remember that when, what's the captain's name? He gave it to us, but it was how when they go out, so much is going through their head, but they have to determine if they are mentally ill, if they're on drugs, if they're have been influenced by drugs or alcohol at the time, and then how they have to adjust accordingly. Is that something too, Francis, that you're also like wanting to hear along with this interaction with just a normal stop?
Commissioner Thompson, your mic is open.
I'm sorry, Sylvia. I was really having a hard time understanding what you were saying. I don't know if my internet connection or not, but I think I heard you say something about the CIT training. Dominique, can you just tell me what she was saying?
She was saying, just recapping kind of the presentation for the CIT, because they talk about interaction with people who are having mental crisis. But then she was also mentioning a previous presentation where they spoke about the different ways that police are trained to deal with interactions of people having mental crisis, people having drug overdoses, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
Sylvia's just asking if that's the kind of information you're looking for when it comes to the interactions between the community and officers.
Actually, I'll tell you the honest truth. Actually, I want to know more about the training for these policies that are in that we're reviewing. I want to know. I mean, I know the CIT training, the crisis intervention team. I understand that, and also I do remember them talking about how they interact with, mentally ill and all that. And all of that's good. I appreciated it, and it's good information for us. But I was speaking specifically to the training. How do the officers know what's in the policies? How do they know the procedures? I want to see and hear more about how the officers get the information that's written in the policies.
Okay.
I think that kind of covers it all.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Yeah, but I'd also like to know the accountability for, as Commissioner Thompson's saying, what the training is, what to get the policies to them, and then the accountability for making sure that also includes things like the training for assessing how much force. Part of that is the training for the appropriate amount of force depending on the situation. All of that is nuanced based on, the best unbiased training, as well as training about, mental health and substance abuse. All of that boils down to how is the policy translated, and then how is the appropriate use of force then held into accountability. So that's the piece that is not being asked of us. So I mean, Commissioner Heseltine, that's why I'm trying to figure out, here's the policy, but if we're really going to be concerned about the human rights abuses or reducing human rights abuses that can get accounted, I think it seems like we need that addendum to be able to say exactly what Francis and others are saying. But I think it should be the full gamut of the full training, the accountability measures, which include things like body cams.
Thank you, Commissioner Stanley. I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Ammerman. Commissioner Ammerman, your mic is open.
Thank you. And I actually want to go back what I was asking. I would like to know what is the process for to report what he sees, like misconduct or, basically what is the say, policies, and what is the procedure to address fears, maybe, from an officer reporting what he sees. That is always a concern because I feel that many times they may be quiet because there is this, how do you say, well, it may be, that there is distribution from other officers, not precisely the upper echelons, but actually, how do we address that concern? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Stanley, I see your virtual hand is still up. Do you have more to add? Okay. All right. Thank you. Chair Husselstein, I don't see any other virtual hands up at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Amberman, part of the 2020 special session, HB 5104, you may want to look into that. That talks in specifics about the law enforcement officers, deputy sheriff, et cetera, minimum qualification. It really is a nice deep dive into what is required and will be implemented at a local level. So I just would point you to HB 5104.
Okay. Commissioner Amberman? Yeah, your mic is open.
Yes, and I agree with you, and I actually had reviewed all the prior bills that were submitted and the ones that were approved, and that is the reason why, because we don't want the state to get involved. We want really the local community to be just prepared, and that is basically the point.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman.
Thank you.
I see a virtual hand by Commissioner Cubine. Commissioner Cubine, your mic is open.
Thank you. Going back to the training and wanting to hear more about the training, there is a statement of that in the information that we reviewed. It's on page 4, and it talks about the training that use of force training is done in the basic police academy, and it's done again, this annual training and refresher training, and training again when the use of. I mean, I can understand that we would still want to hear more details, but I think if we're going to ask for it, we should recognize that there is a reference to it in the policies that we have reviewed. And I think Sylvia was asking whether we had that presentation before also. So, I mean, I'm in agreement with having that presentation, but I think we should recognize that they do include it in this policy, but not in detail. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. Okay, anyone else have any discussion? Don't forget to lower your virtual hand if you're done speaking. Great. Anyone else have anything to add? I don't see any other virtual hands, Committee Chair Husselstein. So mic is back to you.
Okay. So again, I think what the mandate was to send a letter on to BBPD, and I'll work on that in conjunction with Commissioner Strickland. Is there anything else that and then so the next task will be to have the same exercise with the Sheriff's Department use of force policies, and I will send this out to you this week, and we can get started on that. We can do the same thing, the same exercises of does everybody understand all of it, and then go through it with a discussion again. Does that sound acceptable to everybody?
All right. I see a real hand up by Vice Chair Jankot. Vice Chair Jankot, your mic is open.
Thanks. I couldn't find my little hand. So in our minutes from our last meeting, we said that we needed to set a timeline, and we would wait to do the timeline until we finish this task right here. So this task is complete,
Right.
and you're looking ahead at the timeline of next is the Sheriff's Department, and then what's after that. And so if we honor what we agreed on last meeting, then that's the next task. Action item is the timeline for us.
Okay.
Okay. And you can
I will
refer
work on
to you can refer to the last minutes to find that.
Okay.
And okay, thanks. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jankot. Okay, any recommendations for a timeline to do the same exercise of reviewing the use of force policy for the sheriff's office. Any suggested timelines? Raise your virtual hand if you have a thought.
Virtual hand. That's it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I like the way this is rolling along. There's going to be, I think we're going to have a lot on our plate sooner than later. So if we could, to give everyone 2 weeks, would that be acceptable to review the policies and get back with me with any questions that I would need to send to the sheriff's department?
Okay, so 2 weeks from today, we're
Yes.
looking at February 2nd. So anyone have any objections for submitting questions about the policy, the use of force policy for the sheriff's office by February 2nd? Any objection? Raise your virtual hand. Okay, I don't see any objection to that.
Okay.
Here.
Good. And then I'll review how we did this one, but I think then after that, then I sent it to the sheriff's, or I sent it to the police department, gave them 3 days. They got it back to me. I got it out to you guys. We were able to meet like this within another week. Okay, so let's plan on that.
Okay, so we have February 2nd. Submit any questions you have about the use of force policy with the sheriff's office by February 2nd. Committee chair has time. We'll get those questions into the sheriff's department. They will have an answer to us within 3 days, which would be February the 5th. And then we would meet again to discuss those responses on February the 9th.
Right.
Okay, so any objection to that timeline? Okay, raise your virtual hand. I'm not seeing any virtual hands, so after this meeting, we by February 2nd have your questions about the use of force policy for the sheriff's office to committee chair Hasseltine by February 2nd. She will submit those to the sheriff's office. They will get a response to us by February 5th, and then February 9th, we will have a meeting to discuss. I will send out a doodle poll for times on that date.
Okay.
Sounds good? Okay.
That sounds great. Does anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
Raise your virtual hand if you have anything to say. I see a real hand up by Chair Mary Strickland. Your mic is now open.
I'm sorry. Just to go back about the Citizens Academy training, do you think it's should we ask for that officially through Billy Nelms, our liaison, if he can give us some information, maybe push it? Maybe there's not citizens pushing it, but it certainly would help us and all of those that are questioning the things that we were doing. Should we ask for that? We're going to ask for the specific training for the policies. So at the same time, should we ask for that also to be considered?
Chair Mary Strickland, I can hear you, but I think others are having some difficulties hearing you. Yeah, I see.
Could you repeat that?
Chair Mary Strickland asked if we want to also request through our liaison, Captain Billy Zelms, if he could push for the Citizens Academy training. If that's something we want to include in and ask for the department. I see some virtual hands up. Vice Chair Jenkott, your mic is open.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Sylvia. I don't know if it goes in the same piece of same letter, but I think it's good because we are talking about our citizens knowing and understanding what's going on and creating community understanding of our law enforcement. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. I don't know how to pull it off, but yeah, I like it.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Jenkott. I have a virtual hand by Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Thompson, your mic is open.
Thank you. Yes, most definitely, Sylvia. I participated in the FBI Citizen Academy, and it is an experience I will never, ever forget. I learned so much. about the FBI and about how they operate and what they do and what their purpose is. It was amazing. And I wish that we could have a Citizens Academy for the city of Virginia Beach. I think it would help to help the community, bring the community together, and the police department. That's a great idea, and I would wholeheartedly support it based on my experience with the FBI Citizens Academy.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Okay. Committee Chair Hasselstein, back to you.
I think that's it for today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time and the effort that you've taken to review these, and it's good for the community. It's good for the police department. It's good for human rights. If there aren't any other questions or concerns, we're stand adjourned.
Okay. Anyone else have any? Okay. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone. We have a small group, so we can all say goodbye to each other without any craziness. Okay. Goodbye,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Madam Chair.